Welcome to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks, a show that provides extraordinary insights for product managers who want to go faster and farther in their product management careers.
Hello, this is JJ Rory, Vice President at Sequent Learning Networks. In our Masters of Product Management podcast, we tap into the experiences of people who work in and around product management to help you learn and grow in your product management career. We talk a lot on this podcast about the importance of gathering input from the market, spending time with customers, gathering intel, and ultimately deeply understanding what customers need. After all, it's the bedrock of successful product development. That's why I'm so stoked to have Teresa Torres with me today to talk about continuous discovery habits. Teresa is an internationally acclaimed author, speaker, and coach. She teaches a structured and sustainable approach to continuous discovery that helps product teams infuse their daily product decisions with customer input. She's the author of the new book, Continuous Discovery Habits, and blogs at producttalk.org. Teresa, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So congratulations on your new book, Continuous Discovery Habits, Discover Products that Create Customer Value and Business Value. Very exciting.
Yeah, it is really exciting. Thank you so much. The response has been incredible.
That's great. Yes, I have the book right in front of me. It's an amazing book. So everybody listening, go get the book, Continuous Discovery Habits. Okay, so you've been a guru in this area for a long time. Tell me about how your journey to educate the product world on the importance of continuous discovery started. How did you get into this and tell us about that journey?
Yeah, I started out my career as a interaction designer at a time when not a lot of companies were hiring specifically for that role. So I started in some hybrid roles. I started as a front-end software developer doing some design on the side. I eventually moved into kind of a hybrid product and design role. This was all really early stage startups where people get to wear lots of hats. I got exposed to the business side really early because I was the 10th employee at a startup that was 3 weeks old at that time.
Wow.
And so then I pretty early in my career, was really fortunate to move into some different leadership positions, running product and design teams. I ran a startup as a CEO for a few years. And then I went on to another startup where I ran their product and design team. And it was really at that last company that I started to realize that I saw a lot of the same challenges everywhere, that while a lot of product people were really eager to serve the customer and really wanted to build great products, that our practices around how to do that well were not very mature. And I realized that if I tried to change one early stage startup at a time, I would quickly burn myself out. And so I just took a step back and said, this is the thing that I'm most passionate about. If I were to tackle this as the problem that I wanted to solve, what would that look like? And then that led to me starting to work as a product discovery coach.
I love it. And you've been doing this now for several years at least. And it's interesting to me, being, in the industry and a product nerd myself, that we learn, we mean collectively the product management community, we learn, and we all know how important, customer feedback and market insights and discovery is. It's just that we haven't quite grasped how to do it yet. I assume you have found the same, hence your business and your book and et cetera. Why do you think it's intimidating or overwhelming for product managers and leaders to kind of know what to do, how to get started with this continuous discovery, as you say?
Yeah, I think there's a couple pieces to this. So one is I use the word habits in my title because I think you're right. I think most product people don't need to be sold on why. They don't even really need to be sold on what. It's really from a very pragmatic day-to-day standpoint, what does the how look like? And I think the key to unlocking a continuous cadence to your discovery is really focusing on what are the habits that you need to develop? How do you start small? How do you iterate from there? And how do you really ingrain it in the way that you do your work? And then I think the second part of this is that continuous discovery is really orthogonal to traditional business culture, where traditional business operates in a project world. It operates in a command and control, fall back to the organizational hierarchy, kind of big ideas. And that what we're seeing with continuous discovery and with agile teams and with more innovative companies is we're pushing that decision-making down to empowered teams. And that's a pretty big culture change for a lot of companies. And so it's just going to happen a lot slower than we wish.
Yeah, so I love that. Your book obviously talks a lot about that how, right? And I loved how you said it's not really about convincing people the why; it's about how do they actually do it. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, what are the keys to success? What are those habits that we can develop that allow us to do true continuous discovery as opposed to just point in time discovery, which I think most people have done over the course of their careers in product.
Yeah, so I think the first piece of this is really understanding the mindset shift from a project mindset to a continuous mindset. So most of us grew up in a project world, right?
Yeah.
Our companies resource projects annually. We get signed an initiative, or it's a big roadmap feature, whatever the language you want to use for it. A project basically has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Products, especially digital products, rarely have an end, right? We're always iterating on it. We're always improving it. The competitive landscape is always shifting. If we learned anything around the world in 2020, it's that the whole world can change on a dime.
Right.
And because of that, we're seeing that product teams are starting to shift their mindset from a project mindset to a continuous mindset, where we say, look, we're in this for the long haul. We're working on evergreen challenges. We're always going to be evolving our products and services. How do we adapt the way that we engage with our customers to reflect that? So that's the first piece, is just that mindset shift. And the mindset shift is really hard because most of us have never seen what this looks like in practice. From there's then the habits. So what are the habits that we need to develop? There's a number of them. I think it starts with really understanding the outcomes that you're trying to drive rather than the outputs that you're building. So what impact are the things that you're building going to have? Really understanding customer value. And I think one of the easiest ways to do that, one of the habits I talk about in the book, is to just adopt a weekly cadence of interviewing your customers. So just how do you make sure that every week you have at least one touch point with a customer where you're learning about their context, you're learning about their world, you're learning about their unmet needs, pain points, and desires, which I collectively call opportunities. And then another really key habit is around once we move into exploring solutions, we can't take our project-based research and try to do it continuously. We don't have time to prototype whole ideas. We don't have time to A/B test something and learn really late in the process that it didn't work. And so one of the keys is to learn how to take your ideas, break them down into their underlying assumptions, and run really rapid assumption tests. And so I think that's a key habit. There's many more. There's this idea of comparing and contrasting to help with better decision-making. There's sort of a lot around how do we assess and prioritize the opportunity space. But I think the big ones are developing an outcome mindset, engaging with customers on a weekly basis, and taking the time to surface and test underlying assumptions.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine this being quite a sea change for most organizations. Have you found that it's better that this transformation is top down? In other words, the leadership sees that, kind of the old way of project-based mindset and work streams aren't going to work. So top down, they kind of drive this continuous cadence, or bottom up, where the kind of the people in the field, if you will, the product managers doing the work kind of drive it up and almost teach the leaders? Or do you see some combination of that? What works best for organizations if they're going to actually change themselves to embrace this?
Yeah, so what's hard about organizational change is that organizational change requires that all the people in the organization change together. That's impossibly hard.
Yes, it is.
Right? Individuals, first of all, resist change. Change is hard at the individual level. Now we're replicating that across an entire organization, and we're expecting it to happen at the same time, which never happens. There's zero instances of that ever happening. So In an ideal world, yes, it would be driven by leadership, and leadership would motivate their teams, and everybody would get on board and they drink the Kool-Aid and everybody would change together and it would be easy. We don't live in an ideal world. We also find ourselves in this hard reality where most of our leaders learned product in a more traditional way, and they don't have firsthand experience to working this way, which means it's very hard for them to lead this change. So one of my goals with the book was to help empower all of the individual contributors who have been hearing about this way of working, whether it's at conferences, whether it's reading blogs, whether it's reading books, and want to be change agents in their organization. And my advice to them is a little bit surprising because I don't encourage them to go fight the ideological war at their organization and start preaching this is the way of working and leaders, you're doing it wrong, because you're not going to get anywhere. But to really start to work individually on developing your own habits, developing your own mindsets, and starting to show what it looks like to work this way. And most individual contributors have way more agency and ability to work this way than they think. And so one of my goals with the book was to start to show individual contributors how to do this. I've also heard from many leaders that because this wasn't the way they grew up working, the book does a really great job of helping them see and lead how their teams can start working this way.
That's awesome. I love that. So I love that you're tackling it from an individual contributor perspective, but also the leaders can read the book, can get on board, and meet in the middle, if you will. Let's talk just finally about kind of the to piggyback on that individual contributor. What are some other words of wisdom? I love how you couch that. Don't try to boil the ocean and change your leaders, change yourself, and they'll see it working and then embrace it. But what other words of wisdom? How would you say to individual contributors to get started? Obviously, go get the book and read it. But from there, what do they do?
Yeah, so first I want to clarify, as an individual contributor, you could be a product manager, you could be a designer, you could be a software engineer, you could be a UX researcher.
Yeah.
We could list your favorite role. You could be a salesperson for all I care. Across the organization, I would argue you will benefit from developing an outcome mindset, better understanding your customer, learning how to test your assumptions. So that's the first thing. There's a lot in the book. I've been giving a lot of talks about it. People walk away a little bit overwhelmed. I'll give everybody a really easy starting point. Increase the frequency at which you engage with customers. Now, I know for a lot of people, they don't have permission to talk to customers. And some of this is they're waiting for permission. Some of it, I've seen some organizations where there's some real roadblocks. So what I'm going to recommend is start teeny tiny. You work with people who, no matter where you work, I don't need to know a single thing about your organization. You work with people for whom's job it is to spend all day, every day on the phone with your customer. This could be salespeople, account managers, customer support reps, right? Every single company has somebody in the building or virtually from home who are engaging with customers all day, every day. If you're a product person trying to get more exposure to customers, go make a friend with one of those people. Sit in on their meetings. Listen, be a fly on the wall. Once they're comfortable with that, ask if you can ask a question. Maybe share with them ahead of time what you would want to ask so it's less scary for them, right? And then you can iterate from there. Once you've asked a question, you can talk about, hey, can I set up my own conversation with this person to learn more about this topic? So we have to train our organizations to be comfortable with us having firsthand exposure to customers. But the easiest way to start is to make a friend on a team who's already talking to customers.
Love that so much. I couldn't agree more. And I really hope that everyone out there heeds that wisdom, because I think it's so important. And I'm still surprised at the amount of product managers that I talk to that say, yeah, I don't really ever talk to customers. I just, hear it from sales, or salespeople won't let me talk to them, or what have you, especially in B2B. So yes, I love that. Get out there, talk, sit and listen, and then work your way up if needed. That's perfect advice. So it's such a great conversation. Thank you so much. I'm excited about your book. It's amazing. Everyone, please, really, you got to go get this. It's Continuous Discovery Habits by Teresa Torres. Teresa, thank you so much for this conversation and for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
And thank you all for joining us on Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. I am JJ Rory, and I look forward to speaking with you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. If you'd like to take your career to the next level with additional tools, training, coaching, and books, be sure to visit Sequent Learning Networks at sequentlearning.com.